that seem to be...
Vanilla OS for a little while,
okay.
but it was
So-
during Ultra Alpha, and it was a bad experience.
I suggested that since I'm getting again into using NixOS on the desktop, that maybe we could talk about those 2 weeks from now. I will. I could do NixOS and you two can.
And then it'll be the
can
immutable
do it, yeah.
Norbert.
Yeah.
Well, I can
And-
look back. We did NixOS a
Yeah.
while ago and just talk about that.
I should really get around trying Silverblue because I haven't tried anything that is actually image based. So NixOS is not image based; it just builds it from scratch.
Right.
And I was thinking I do want to talk a bit about my NVIDIA issues that are
Again? Because
Well, I mean,
the only reason I don't like talking about NVIDIA issues is because it's the exact same problem every single time. Bill just had it, and Bill's gonna chime in.
I've got
"Oh, yeah, I
Arch
had
on
the
this
same
system,
exact
Norbert,
problem."
because
But
I was trying to get
I-
NVIDIA
yeah.
to work.
Yeah,
I kind of have some new things to say.
that horse
that
is
are,
dead. Stop beating the NVIDIA horse. It's
No,
dead.
I'm not. I'm not here to bash NVIDIA. I'm here to talk about a solution.
No, but
to-
I'm gonna bash NVIDIA, and every
I am
solution
gonna. I am
eventually
too,
breaks.
because this thing ruined my weekend.
Oh, so we are
and-
talking NVIDIA. All
Okay.
right.
Well, I
Well-
could,
I'm happy to talk NVIDIA.
but
No, I actually I'm not really.
Just make good Linux choices and
Yeah.
don't buy
And-
NVIDIA. That is
well,
the
it's the
answer
whole
every
reason
time.
why I bought this and the AMD Fire Pro. It's very comparable to this in that it's got 4 ports on it so I can run multiple monitors nice
Yeah.
and neatly.
Well, I'll let y'all talk about
Well,
it.
my graphics card I had it for years before I switched to Linux, and unless it dies, I'm not planning on buying a new one. And I actually haven't really had NVIDIA issues. I'm here to talk about some ways to try to avoid the NVIDIA issues.
Buy AMD.
Buy
or
AMD,
Intel.
yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the answer every
you-
single time.
There is
Compiling
plenty.
anything is never the answer.
Well, the whole reason I wanted to use it is so that I could take advantage of the NVIDIA encoding engine that's built right in to use effective hardware decoding. But
How effective was it, Dan? I mean,
I'm-
Bill.
Yeah.
See,
it's just
do you see how condescending I am to Dan?
you
all the
cannot
time?
get-
It's just
Since we're-
reflex now.
Since we're talking either way, we might as well just start the recording.
Yeah, I'm recording
I was thinking-
video. I haven't done Audacity yet,
Okay.
but let's go ahead and do that. We're gonna do a 3, 2, 1 record.
Yep.
3, 2, 1 record.
It's weird how much more loud everything seems when you're trying to be as quiet as possible.
The ringing in my ears.
Yeah.
Oh
is
yeah,
more
me
apparent.
too. Yeah.
I wonder how long it would take to get rid of that. Sitting in a perfectly silent room, just not
To get
hearing
rid
it.
of it, I don't
To
think
get
it
rid
goes
of the-
away.
Yeah.
Maybe your brain could just sort of ignore it for a while. But
If my brain could
I've
ignore
learned
it,
to.
Norbert, I wouldn't
Yeah.
hear it now.
yeah.
I think
I
it.
want
Okay,
to.
now you pointed it out, I'm hearing mine as well.
Hey, look.
Well, there goes your life.
Mhm. Gotta love
Oh.
noise pollution or really loud rock bands.
Let's do a 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 2, 1, 0.
We seem to have very little latency today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not bad. Linux OTC. Welcome to episode 9. We're your hosts. I'm Bill.
I'm Norbert.
I'm Leo. 9? Really? Already?
Yeah. 9.
Wow. I thought we were
Nine.
on like 4.
9, and we've made like $2.30 off those silly ads.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
I'll send you a check for your whatever that is. I'm
That's
not
right.
doing math.
That's right. Give me my 80 cents.
Oh gosh. So we got a couple articles we want to get into, I think, and maybe talk about some of our recent Nvidia woes. Uh,
Yeah, don't rope me into this. I buy good hardware.
well, I
Y'all
say
can talk
our
about
because
Nvidia.
I bought good hardware too, and ultimately that's what I ended up running.
Good. Okay. Good in
Um,
quotes, just simply because are you running that Nvidia hardware right now, Bill? Is that in there?
no, it's in my hand.
Oh, oh, right, yeah.
They don't work quite that good. They're not wireless.
Should have told you that before you bought it. I could have saved you some money.
The whole
They,
reason I tried to use an Nvidia card like 15 years ago, and it was a nightmare then. And it was a nightmare. Well, okay, so I put this thing in, and I'm on Mint 21, and it says, "Oh, you got an Nvidia card," because Mint's got that driver manager tool, and it offers because the Nuvo driver is installed by default, you'll get desktops. And if you just use that, you would get a perfectly usable desktop, but you don't have access to some of the more the reasons why you would buy an Nvidia card. So it offers 6 options for the proprietary binary driver, ranging in uh, version numbers from like 390 up to 530.
yeah, the reason for that is that they keep dropping support for all the cards in each version.
Yeah.
So they just this will just fork the driver, and for example, there are cards that need the 470 driver because in 500, I think the cards themselves, the GPUs were dropped. And what would be quite nice if it does it actually tell you which one you should use, or does it just tell you
It
these are the
lists all
options?
6 of them, and then it gives you, like in my case, it said 530 was recommended. So I installed 530. It went great, installed great, yeah. Then you hit
Yeah,
the restart button, and you got nothing.
530 is the most
Yeah.
recent as of recording this.
So I thought, well, okay, that's no doubt like a kernel malignment or something like that.
Can I ask what
And
kernel version this is on?
I don't know now because I ended up switching to Arch in
Oh,
order to
okay.
try to get everything, as up to date as possible.
So you nuked your entire operating system
Well,
because
the
you
system
had a
partition,
video
yeah.
card.
Well, I wanted to use the stupid thing, and I thought, well, every now and then I like to do a nuke and pave anyway.
Was
That's
it
what I
an,
To a different OS or just to have fresh everything?
there's been some slight irritations for me. I mean, I'm a longtime Arch user, and I'm quite used to being like right there with the up to date stuff. And things just I'm not a huge fan of how things work with the whole flat pack and the snap thing. It's great, but
But you'd rather chance it with the AUR instead, huh?
well, no, I've got very few things from the AUR actually working, but Audacity, for example, works the way it should.
How do you mean?
Well, because if you install the flat pack, you don't have any access to the real time plugins
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
stuff like that, which I don't use anyway. But that doesn't matter. If it's not working the way it's supposed to work, it just irritates me because that's just.
So why not the app image then?
So the thing about the app image,
You're gonna say telemetry, aren't you? Don't you dare.
no, I don't care about that. In fact, if I know that they're doing it, I want to give them the information. I
Yeah,
want
yeah, I
them
was
to
gonna
know
say.
that there's Linux users out there.
I-
If
Yeah.
I know that there's telemetry somewhere, I'll go and turn it on.
The ones that come from the repos don't have it on. I go in and turn it on.
Yeah,
Because
me
for
too.
for that reason, I need them to know that I use this.
Right,
and to
because
not
if they
forget
don't
this.
if they don't think there's anybody using it on Linux, they're not going to support it
Yeah.
for very long, or at least that's presumably. But you've got the up to date version on the default repos on Arch for all this stuff. The only thing I got from Flatpak on Arch is OBS, because the repo version of OBS does not come with the browser plugin. that I use to stream the Video Ninja directly into OBS Studio,
Mhm.
so that we've got this nice, neat. This is not a screen capture. This is piped directly in from all three streams.
That's cool.
Um,
Wait, for
But
Audacity, did you say that you are using a version from the AUR or just the regular
just the
Arch
regular one.
package?
It's 331, which
So on Mint you were just using the DAB in the from
I
the
would
Windows,
no.
right?
I was using the flat pack on Mint.
but
And
hold on, let's go back just a minute. Why didn't you use the app image after all?
okay, so when you change a lot of things, and of course I could be wrong, I almost certainly am, but when you change things on app image and then you go and get the new version of it, unless it's got a built-in updating mechanism in the application, you've got to like export your settings and all your configuration, and then start up the new app image and then import all that. It's just kind of an arcane process.
Are you
Don't
sure?
the settings just sit in the same directories as with the regular one in .config?
Right.
They might, yeah. I don't know. I just wanted to install it from the package manager that comes with the distribution. I guess
You're one of those.
I'm just kind of old fashioned in that way. I like
app
it.
image is old fashioned, man.
Uh,
How
it
long?
reminds me too much of the .exe things, where you got to
It-
go to the internet, find a thing, download it, and
Yeah, well, it reminds me of the Mac paradigm, which has been around for decades. So it's an oldie but goodie process too.
yeah. So that's what I did, and just end up going right back to the AMD card. But all that being said, now that I'm on Arch, I've got KDE Plasma running here and Wayland, and I got to tell you, everything is sharper than it was on Mint, and
Sharper. What does that mean?
the font rendering and things of that nature on the GUI elements just have a sharper look to them.
Well, yeah,
On
because it
Wayland.
doesn't have the anti-aliasing and all over that. You have to install that yourself on Arch.
Well, I mean, it's sharp looking the way it is right now. I like it like this.
You can see the pixels,
Yeah.
and you like it that way.
I mean, there's some faffing around you got to do with the browsers. You've got a couple different. You've got to do an environment variable for Firefox to get it to play well with Wayland, and then there's a config flag you got to do in Chromium or
I love
anything
that.
Chromium based.
I love that. After I installed my operating system, I don't actually use my computer. What I do after that.
Oh well, I mean that's the story of an Arch user.
yeah, it is. I love it.
I'll tell you what, you get a working desktop with the new Arch install thing, and it's fantastic, and it's fast, and it's great. You get everything working, but if you're going to use Wayland, you've got to set some things up that they didn't just set up for you out of the box.
But I don't understand the installer at all, because that's just Endeavor. I don't get it. I don't
The
know.
Arch
Are they-
the Arch install is way different from Endeavor. Endeavor, I think, uses Calamares or something
Yeah.
like that.
Probably.
The
yeah.
Arch install is just you get a list of things that need to be done, and then you go down one at a time, and it shows. It's almost
So-
like Anaconda in that way, where you've got the stuff that needs to be done out in front of you, and you kind of can go
it-
in any order you want.
Is it text based?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But
what you're telling me is the Arch installer has finally upgraded to 1996
But
the way that Slackware does it.
if you ever try it, though, you'll see that it's comprehensive. The thing I like about it is when
Like
you
Slackware.
well, you go through, and when you're choosing the type of file system you want to go with, it speaks Btrfs, which is another thing that I was happy about, and it knows. It asks you, do you want to? It goes through and asks you all the right questions. It asks you, do you want to use subvolumes? Yeah, okay. Do you want encryption enabled? And it chooses Z standard encryption by default, and then it sets up all your subvolumes for your root,
Don't you
your
mean,
home.
compression. This
What did I say?
compression, Encryption.
Oh yeah, well that's that it does that too, but yeah, compression, your Z standard compression,
That's
and then
actually great because not even Anaconda asks you what you want to use. It just defaults to the standard.
Yeah.
right,
But
well,
for the installer though, it still doesn't make any sense to me though. Like if you're running Arch, are you not electing to do it the hard way?
I
Are you
think
not
I am.
electing to
I'm.
make each individual choice the hard way?
And I am running
I don't.
Arch right now on Wayland, and because I wanted to try Hyperland, so Hyperland is very much in development. There are new updates to the repo almost multiple times a day. So Arch actually has a package for it in their main repos now. So I just decided to install that, and I'm waiting for it to land in Fedora at one point.
Hmm.
So I'm on Arch, and I actually never used Arch and installed it by Arch install. I just made my own install script, post install script like 2 years ago, and I keep updating that, and I'm very happy with it.
That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got a script in GitHub that works with Reflector and Pacman Contrib, which is the package that does it gives the Pacman the functionality of cleaning the cache and all that stuff, and the script will go through and update the mirrors, and then it updates the package list if it needs, and then runs the updates from Yay, which gets you your updates from the default repositories as well as the AUR, and then cleans the cache, and then looks for any Flatpak updates, installs those, and then tells you that you're done. Um,
I just know the name, the address of physically the closest mirror for me, and
Yeah.
they are called Quantum Mirror here in Hungary, and they host repos for dozens of distributions. So if there's a they for even less used ones like Void, for example. So whenever I want to have and they are reasonably fast as well. So when I want to download, for example, Arch, I don't start typing Arch Linux into my bar. I just start typing Quantum, and one of the suggestions is always the Arch ISO path, for example.
so how many mirrors do you have in Hungary then, or close
Uh,
enough to you?
they are the only ones that I. Well, I wanted to say that like maybe two that are more notable, but the thing is that I find that physical distance isn't really a big factor anymore, because oftentimes it turns out that servers from neighboring countries or nearby countries like Czechia or Slovakia or even Germany, which is a little further away, are actually pretty fast. So I don't really worry about mirrors as much. Every once and every once in a while, when I was using Void, I just noticed that the official mirror just got very slow. Then so I just solved it out with the one that I mentioned, the quantum mirror, and it was just fine.
See, yeah, I think the old wisdom that the closest mirrors are going to be the fastest ones, that might not be
Yeah.
the case. That's why I run Reflector every time, because Reflector will just go through. Now, I do tell it just mirrors in the United States, but what it does is it goes and finds the five most recently updated mirrors,
Hmm.
and then sorts them. It checks the speeds, it pings them, and then sorts them by speed, and then rewrites your pacman.conf or your mirrorlist.conf
Yeah. Do you
file.
know what Arch? Based on what does Arch just generate the mirror list by default? Because sometimes it ends up including things that are on the other side of the world, for example, on China and Australia.
Well, if you add the tac, I can't remember what the flag is, but you can specify what countries you want to
Mm.
narrow it down to.
But if I don't specify anything, does it just pick?
I think it just goes through the entire list.
Mm.
I mean, it'll pick out the five most recently. I mean, like that's another feature flag is tac latest, and then
Yeah.
whatever number you put, and I usually just put five because you're not going to use more than that anyway. And yeah, and presumably you could just go and check the 5 most recent anywhere in the world, and there is a considerable number of Arch Linux mirrors all over the planet.
I had a case once when I upgraded Arch. It was, I think, it was more than a year ago, and it was pretty slow. So I changed my mirrors, and when I ran upgrade again, it wanted to downgrade a bunch of stuff because the other mirror wasn't as up to date. So that's
Mm.
interesting. On Fedora is interesting because um, there was a point when I always customized my DNF.conf with things like closest mirror or fastest mirror equals true, and maximum parallel downloads equals 10 and stuff like that. But it turns out by default it has a parallel download set and only to 3. And apparently it doesn't make much of a difference if you set it very high. The maximum is 20, but I'm not sure. I think 3 is nice. And I
I
also
wonder if
learned
you
something.
would run the risk of fragmenting your hard drive by
Mm,
having too many parallel
yeah.
downloads.
Well, for the
Why would
cache,
Pac-Man's got
maybe.
why would that fragment your drive?
because
No,
you're
because
downloading several files at the same time.
but if it knows the size of the file, doesn't it just pre-allocate disk space for each
I don't
file?
know. Depends on the file system, I guess.
Yeah,
One
because usually
very
well, I don't know. I guess it depends on what you're using, but I'll see that like placeholder download file or whatever,
Mm.
and then that is the thing that grows until the file itself is done downloading, and then the file names get changed and moved around.
And no
So
doubt Btrfs probably just does like ZFS and takes it all
yeah.
into RAM and then writes it all at the same time.
yeah, but also, what would it matter now? Fragmentation. I think the vast majority of us, especially now, SSDs are cheap.
They are.
Fragmentation isn't nearly the problem that it was back in the day.
Yeah. So yeah, my knowledge is dated, but um, no, I
What
like
a guy.
that's that's another thing I liked about Mint is once you know that it's there, that you have the ability on Mint to change the. They don't call it mirror, do they? They call it
Well, they ask you on first run, on first
yeah.
update.
But
Like,
their tool to like do it later on is not really that intuitive to me. You got to click on, and it's not really clear that you're supposed to click there to change the location of the Mint repo as well as the Ubuntu repo. You can change both of those things, and it sorts it by speed, and then you can choose the one that you want to use,
which is
which is
always
nice.
Evo wise, always.
Yeah,
And it's really nice seeing when it runs tests all the mirrors, and they keep it's like a race, like
yeah.
with race cars. They just compete for which one's the fastest, and the fastest one gets to the top. With Fedora, it's the other flag that I mentioned. The other option is fastest mirror equals true, but turns out what it does is frequently when I want to run sudo DNF upgrade, it first starts measuring the speeds of various mirrors. So by enabling fastest mirror, it can make your wait time actually longer,
Hmm.
which is interesting.
Wait, is that
Hmm.
on by
Sometimes
default?
it
Because
happens. No, it's not on by default.
okay,
And like I said, so these two things I used to set on for DNF, the fastest mirror and maximum parallel downloads, I just don't change them because I find that the defaults are better for my case. The only thing I change is making yes the default answer for prompts and not no, because DNF has no by default.
yeah, oh yeah, I
But
prefer that. I can't.
yeah,
No, I don't
but
like it.
all in
Same
all,
with apt and same with
yeah.
Pac-Man and everything else. Like I'm gonna review this before you do anything.
Mm.
No.
I spent more than a year on Fedora on my desktop and my laptop, and the only reason I went back to Arch is to try Hyperland. But the reason I originally mentioned that we could talk about NVIDIA is that I'm thinking about hopping on my desktop. And I actually looked up, Bill, you mentioned your problems on main with the drivers, and that is based on the latest LTS Jammy, right? Ubuntu Jammy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I looked up and that has 5.15 LTS as a kernel, which is a bit. I'm a bit worried because one thing that I recently learned about is apparently NVIDIA, they they mostly just test their drivers against the LTS kernels. And allegedly, there have been multiple kernel updates on Fedora that broke the NVIDIA drivers, and I
No.
was just apparently very lucky and missed them because I never really had NVIDIA break throughout the 1 year that I've been running it on my system. I've been on non-Wayland with NVIDIA for more than 6 months, and it's been fine. But the Fedora's biggest strength is also kind of a weakness because it always offers a very the latest possible stable software, which means the latest kernel. So they don't have an LTS kernel packaged.
That
And I
that
was
is kind of
thinking, yeah,
that would be cool if they would do that.
yeah, and I was thinking maybe I should hop to a distro that has the absolute latest of everything, like Fedora, but also packages an LTS kernel. So in order
Arch.
to, yeah,
Yeah, I
in
was
order
gonna
to
say.
maybe lower the chances of anything breaking NVIDIA wise. So I installed Arch, but I haven't installed GNOME yet because I'm waiting for them to move GNOME 44 to stable on Arch. It's in the experimental repo right now. But the thing about Fedora is that everything Wayland wise just oh no just works so flawlessly out of the box.
It
I'm
works great on
interested.
KDE too.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how it's on Arch. But if like I said, I already set up Arch with the RTS kernel. I'm just waiting for GNOME so I can install it on top of it.
It seems to be the only you get some minor irritations, but I think it's inherent to the way Wayland works. Like on Video Ninja here, under X, you could literally share any window that was running, with the stream. And Wayland just won't let you do that. And I think that's a security feature where it will not allow one application to go and look at another one.
Yeah,
And
I think there are multiple implementations in development for individual window sharing under Wayland. For example, KDE is doing one right now that lets you share uh, because I think you can actually share X Wayland windows because those are in a X under running under an X environment. But KDE is working on a way, or I think they've already published that to share Wayland native windows. And another thing is that I mentioned Hyperland, which is a Sway-like window manager, compositor for Wayland, WRoots based. They forked the desktop portal that lets you screen share under WRoots. So that's XDG desktop portal WLR. The fork is XDG desktop portal Hyperland, which has capabilities for selecting windows or even screen regions and sharing those. I tried it today. It's not perfect, but did manage to share a fraction of the screen. I couldn't for some reason add more than one to OBS, and it's still showing up, which is interesting
so,
because I can add multiple whole screens to OBS as inputs, and it will show up.
so I wonder if there need to be some kind of API access for that or something in order for me to share, or if that would just be on the browser level. Uh,
Well,
to
OBS has been very.
Well, I'm not using it's this is an OBS
Oh,
is just it has to first go through Video Ninja. Like when you go to that button down there that looks like a TV and you click on that, you can share a screen.
yeah,
But if
but
you're
it's
on
running in the browser, right?
right, yeah.
Yeah, so it should be a case of Firefox and supporting it, and I think Firefox supports it. I can even share
Okay.
I cannot share my screen under Sway on the Discord native app because it's an outdated version of Electron. But
Yeah.
if I run Discord in Firefox, I can just share my screen on Sway, no problem. Which is,
Right.
it was one of the big issues with even when GNOME finally supported screen share on Wayland, the WRoots compositors were. It was a bit later for them to get there, but it's working fine, mostly for now.
So I guess we're there as far as Wayland goes.
Not quite.
I mean,
Well,
I got all
yeah,
this stuff running. The only thing about without what if I don't have what you're talking about,
yeah,
Norbert, I have to. The only thing I can share is stuff that is running inside of the browser that's running Video Ninja, which is
Yeah.
fine, because what I did was I installed just a simple, well, I say simple, an extension so that I could play locally installed videos on this extension, and then I can use that to, if I wanted to play a video, which I do a lot on 3FT, and that shares just fine. And you even get audio because there's no, if you use an outside app like VLC or anything like that, you have trouble piping the audio through the stream. But with this, it just works and it looks a lot more seamless. So I haven't encountered any deal breaker issues yet as far as the making of the shows and everything. I remember when I first started on Mintcast, I couldn't even get OBS to play ball and do the screen captures and all that, which I guess I haven't tried to do a screen capture yet.
Well, what were you trying to? Were you on Nvidia or something?
No, well, I had that NVIDIA Optimus laptop, but
Yeah.
I don't think it was using the NVIDIA card. I think
Yeah.
I would just had an old version of OBS, and I started it up, and I tried to capture the, because we were still using Discord at the time, and I tried to capture that window, and it just wouldn't work. It just showed up as a black screen. So
It's
I don't
really
know.
weird because I used to do that all the time. That's how I would do the live streams.
Under Wayland.
Oh no, because
No,
I was
that's
on,
why I'm saying I had
because
Wayland.
I was on Mint, Bill.
Right. Yeah. Well, I was on Arch on that laptop, and
Oh boy.
I realized right away. Kudos to me. I realized right away. I wonder if it's a Wayland thing. So I logged out and logged back into X11, and it worked.
The moral
So,
of the story here is to use Mint. It sounds like, and not Nvidia.
yeah.
Two morals to that
Well,
story.
that's I fail on both of those counts.
Oh, I know.
But
I fail on
know.
one of
That's-
them.
But I've also
This is
been,
why we're talking about Nvidia not working. That's exactly why we're talking
But
about
I'm also
this.
using NVIDIA on the desktop, and I've been running Xorg without Xorg. Well, X-Wayland sometimes, but I'm running on Wayland for more than 6 months.
Yeah,
I made
but
a
you
silly
have had to
little
fix kernel
yeah.
and Nvidia issues way more than I have.
Yeah.
Well-
I made a silly little script that looks at when the root of the file system was created, and looks at today's date, does the subtraction, and then prints the number of days. So I made a silly script that's when I run it, it will say like
Oh, yes.
185 days without Xorg. And I could maybe add that to my bash RC so it runs every time. But
You
that
need
would
to
be silly.
add the last time Nvidia failed for any reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like 30 days since Nvidia has crashed.
You know,
on me.
actually, it has been over a year since Nvidia failed for me. But
Wow.
like
Bill,
I
how
said,
long has it been for you?
5 hours.
That's
well, let's
about
put it
right.
this way. I was up until 1 a.m. getting everything set back up and reinstalled and get everything going
So
with the
Norbert was right. It was about
AMD
5 hours.
cards. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was bad.
The reason I looked up what kernel version Mint uses, and it's 5.15, is because that is an LTS, and allegedly NVIDIA, because they obviously have a lot of customers in data centers that use their GPUs on Linux. So I assume they must have they have incentive to make a good driver. But the thing about those data centers is they most likely run the LTS versions of the kernel. So
Yeah, why would they need anything else, right?
so that means NVIDIA probably makes extra sure for the drivers to be stable on the LTS kernels and more stable than the non-LTS kernels.
So let me get this straight. Nvidia's focus is where the money is, not on the desktop.
Oh, how could they?
Yeah.
Which is what we are talking about.
But knowing
Huh.
this, but knowing
I
this,
wonder if that has anything to do with how much trouble people have.
Open
running
source the
NVIDIA
drivers,
on the
and then we'll
desktop.
take care of it. That's
No, 100%, yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
slowly
you know.
doing that.
yeah. I gotta wonder if it's ever gonna be backwards compatible though. If that
Bill,
that new
how much
kernel-
money does NVIDIA make off the desktop? That will answer your question.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
to the more to the point, in the entire reason I wanted
I
to
thought that
use
was
all
the
that,
point.
well, I feel the need to explain myself. Um, the reason I was trying to make this happen to begin with is because I wanted to offload all this video stuff I was doing onto the GPU, and it turns out that maybe it never was worth the faff because I'm looking at my CPU usage right now on OBS, and OBS is using 8.8%, whereas with hardware encoding, it's it's around 2%. So the gains, I don't know, are just maybe not worth the effort that goes through to make sure everything just stays running. Because I
So
couldn't even get a boot screen.
so did all kids did we hear this? It wasn't worth the
It's
faff.
not. Okay for my use case. Now, if your use case is gaming and things like
Yeah,
that,
if it's
now I know.
strictly
Yeah,
gaming, don't forget you're probably gonna have to fix your OS every now and then.
yeah.
But that might be worth the faff if you're prioritizing Linux and you just happen to have an Nvidia card. It
what I'm
might be worth the
thinking,
faff at that point. But there are very few other applications where Nvidia is just going to be good. Other than CUDA, I guess, like using rendering. But that's kind of AMD's Achilles heel, right? If you want to do fast rendering, you got to have the CL driver. And if you want to play games, you probably want to use Mesa, which are not compatible with each other and not easily interchangeable. So there's a bit of an issue there too. I get that, but I mean,
So you
it's
need
not.
two cards.
yeah,
Yeah, essentially, yeah, do that.
hybrid graphics. Does any of you use
Oh no, that's already
laptops with?
wrong. You've already. It
Yeah,
doesn't even work
yeah.
good in Windows. Come on.
Do any
Oh,
of you
you
use
say that, but I've got
hybrid
an
graphics laptops?
Optimus. Yeah, I've got an Optimus. I got an Omen upstairs. It's got Nvidia, and it's got a GTX. It's like a 5 something or no, 6 something
So a
GPS,
very
600.
old card.
It's yeah, I think it's a 7th gen i7, and you install. Now I got Arch on that, and then you install Nvidia, you install Mesa, and then you install this package called Nvidia Prime,
Which
and then
NVIDIA version does it need?
it's Arch, so it's running the latest. I don't have anything holding it back.
But
Yeah,
but I
but I
want to
mean,
but I want to make a point clear though that your laptop is old, and this is something that I think people have to come to grips with on Linux. You cannot have the newest of the newest stuff
Yeah,
and be cool. Well, sometimes you can, but you have to be very selective about what you're buying. And I think that's just what people have to come to grips with. Be careful what you buy if you're planning on maining Linux, because if it's not compatible, it's not compatible.
well,
And
if
you
you're
might just
buying
have
brand
issues.
new, you need to be buying a System 76 or
A Windows
uh,
license?
Tuxedo, and
Tux,
there's
yeah, tuxedo. If you're in Europe, tuxedos or intro wear.
Yeah.
But here in the States, I think we're kind of. I'm sure there's some like esoteric vendors out there somewhere.
Framework.
yeah.
Well, you got
You know,
frame. Yeah, okay. So my bad. Framework and System 76 here in the States. Either one of those two, and Entroware and Tuxedo in Europe.
and
Um,
speaking of System 76, because I think they have laptops with hybrid graphics. Even if you are not using one of the machines, and you have hybrid graphics, uh, I think it's interesting to look forward to their newly developed Cosmic that is not GNOME based. I've tried it. I actually installed Arch and just installed the Cosmic Git branch from the AUR to I managed to start it. Nothing really worked. I could open the menu options on the panel, but no Windows opened. But I did notice there was a dedicated menu for switching graphic the various modes as far as hybrid graphics is concerned. So they make extra care to have a good hybrid graphics experience. So whenever they release the stable version, should be interesting. But I don't have a hybrid graphics or anything, but you could give it a try, Bill, when it happens.
yeah, yeah, I will. Because right now it just runs flawlessly. It'll use the Intel until like if I start Steam up and I go to a game and I've looked at NVTop, which for those who don't know, it's kind of like an HTOP except it does the GPUs and it does a pretty good job. It's kind of laid out the same way HTOP is, and you can see it enumerates your cards like 0 and 1 in my case, and you can see everything running, all the desktop stuff running on the Intel card, and then the games like Steam and all that you can see are running on the Nvidia card, and it works. Like I said, you've got to have on Arch. You have to have the Nvidia Prime package installed according to the AUR in order to make that work. There's other solutions. You got a few more choices if you're using X. You've got some hard switches you can put in there, like Bumblebee or Optimus Manager, which literally just will choose one card or the other to do everything, which I don't know why you would do that, but that's options you have. None of those work on Wayland, though. But the NVIDIA Prime works perfectly with Wayland, so...
You said it was a pretty old... it's a laptop, right?
Yeah.
Are you using the latest NVIDIA driver, the 470 or the 390?
Well, it's using whatever Arch, the latest thing Arch has got, so I imagine it's the...
So that means it supports the latest one.
Yeah.
So that means it should probably maybe work fine with the Cosmic desktop when it comes out. I was going to say something about NVIDIA.
It's great.
Enough said.
On
Yeah,
Linux.
the thing about NVIDIA, I remember the days when it was just buy an ATI card and it will be all good. And NVIDIA was the less trusted one. But
Wait, that's not today?
well, it's interesting because
Yeah.
well, I'm talking from a Windows user perspective back then, because what I think about NVIDIA today is that their hardware is actually really good. The problem is with the software,
Yeah.
mostly on the Linux side. But as far as the hardware is concerned, it's actually really good. And my most graphics intensive use case is actually rendering. So I like to have CUDA. That's why I think when the card eventually dies, I will probably get another NVIDIA. Because
Well, you run Arch all the time, so you don't care about the Tinker.
Well, Arch, or I try to think of distros that package the LTS kernel, rolling distros or semi-rolling distros. And there's Arch, but Arch is the do-it-yourself one. There's Void and
Well, you say that,
Alpine.
but the Arch install thing,
That's what I'm saying.
the
How
Arch
weird.
install thing gives you the choice between the regular Linux, the Linux LTS, and the Linux Zen.
Yeah.
You can choose
But
those three.
the thing about Arch is that you have way more chances of breaking it while using it, and not rather than during the installation.
I feel
So
like
even
that's
if you
overstated.
use the Arch, yeah, well, I think sometimes you have to keep
Says
out
a
for the
guy
blog posts.
that has
to-
installed Arch myriad times. It's overstated.
I've had one problem. I mean,
Alright.
as far as like problems that you run into along the way as you're using it, I think in the last 10 years, the only thing I've had happen was, what was it, 2 years ago?
Okay, the
when
grub thing, and that
the
was
grub
less than
thing,
a
and
year
that was
ago.
it. That was it.
Less than a year ago.
That was all. The only problem I've had where I had to get into there and really, because you get the obvious things about Arch are things like AUR packages that don't get updated the same time as their tool chains, which come from the
Right, which is a huge
which-
reason why I don't like the AUR. Yeah.
you have to know that when you install something from the AUR, it's not going to get perhaps updated. But if you start that application and it doesn't work, the obvious answer is because it needs to be reinstalled, because it has to go and recognize that it's got something new in the tool chain.
I don't know.
That-
Arch is
I
very
don't know-
accessible through things like Endeavor and Arco. So, do you know that?
Yeah, but and I have used those things. When I first started with Arch, you didn't have Endeavor, but there was a distro out there, very esoteric distro out there called Bridge, and it was about the time when Manjaro was getting started, and you kind of had this pathway to Arch that I remember talking about back then, where you could start with Manjaro, and it kind of gets you used to the idea of an AUR and things being more up to date and using Pac-Man and stuff like that. And then you move on to Bridge, with which what Bridge was in those days was kind of a cross between Endeavor and the Arch install script, where you had a text-based. It was actually Incursus based installer, but then once it was installed, you had a curated sort of experience with the theming and the icons and all that stuff. It was kind of different. It was some sort of Graybird theme on XFCE with this icon theme called Awoken, which is still out there, but it's kind of incomplete by modern standards. And it kind of that was a little less handholdy, but it got you even more used to the idea of managing the system a little bit deeper down. And then, of course, the obvious next step was to take the time to learn how to try and install Arch.
See, that's what I love about Arco, is that they'll start you off very handholdy, and then there are 5 steps. It's a 5-step program to not just installing Arch, but to understand what it is that you're doing every step of the way. That is the important part. That is what I think most people that run Arch don't do or don't know. And person that is shaking your head at the speaker right now, not you, because you've been running Arch for 6 years or whatever, I know. But the new person that's just getting into it, that's like, ooh, Arch looks really cool. Yeah. Learning
I never
a lot
steer
about
anybody. Yeah, I never steer
No, you
anybody
should.
towards Arch. Well, because then I would be doing full-time IT support for them.
No,
every day.
don't do that. You just tell them no.
I'd
You
have
tell
to
them,
avoid their phone calls from
no.
there on out.
No,
I give
you
them,
don't. No,
I give
you
them
don't. You
mint,
just say,
and they just get on with it.
we're not talking about Arch on this phone call. What are you up to, man? What's going on? How you been?
Yeah.
Besides your don't talk about your laptop. Stop talking about your laptop. What'd you have for dinner? Like,
I haven't
No.
eaten in 3 days. I can't get this thing to turn on.
man, I guess you better learn how to compile a kernel, because I'm hungry too. Let's go.
I have never compiled a kernel on. I guess people do it on Arch for weird reasons, but
Yeah. Well, I'm diving into Gentoo soon, so I will probably use the precompiled kernels to
Yeah.
start with, just to get going or whatever. But man, the whole point of Arch is cobbling it together yourself and understanding what you're doing. The whole point of Gentoo is to do the same thing, but also get the performance benefits of compiling everything yourself. That's how I see those two things.
weigh those compiling benefits, which I
they
argue
won't.
are
They won't.
weigh those against the time it takes to run that update. You're
It costs
basically
me
gonna
more money.
you're
It
gonna
costs me more money for those
pseudo
things because-
emerge world, and then you're gonna go to bed for the night.
But
I have
it's
a
gonna
Gentoo install because I was curious. And, well, Leo, if you can use the precompiled kernels if they work, but for
Gen
some
kernel,
reason,
I think it's called.
yeah, for some reason my touchpad wouldn't work if I use the precompiled kernels. So I had to not
because
only
it probably didn't have that driver
Yeah.
in there.
yeah, I had to not only compile but to go into the kernel setup and turn on various things for my touchscreen and touchpad
Yeah.
to work. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. I totally understand that's how that's going to be. But that's the point. The point
yeah.
is to understand.
And you're gonna write out your F-stab by hand too.
Of course. Why wouldn't I do that? That is the entire
Yeah, you're absolutely
point
right.
of
That's-
doing these distros, is to have the ultimate control. And I know that compiling my stuff is not going to give me any real appreciable difference in performance. And it will end up costing me more in the long run because, like money, it will cost me money in the long run because I'll have to use my CPU to compile those things. And then the performance benefit I get at the end of that isn't going to be appreciable. So it's going to cost me $5 extra to run Gentoo for a month because I'm
I
having
think
to
this
compile
sounds.
all this
This
stuff.
is sounding more and more like a conversation in futility than it is. Hey, I got a great idea.
No,
I'm gonna go.
the thing that I get out of that is not really performance. It's not really anything like
It's
that.
fun.
Well, yeah, it is. It is fun, and it's a learning experience. I
Yeah.
don't know. I couldn't tell you right now the Ubuntu kernel that I'm running, what kinds of things that Ubuntu has added to it, and that was straight from the kernel. What they enabled, what kinds of kernel drivers are in there that wouldn't have been in there otherwise. I couldn't tell you that.
Well,
But after running Gentoo, I can.
it probably supports up to 5 petabytes of RAM because there's a Gentoo kernel config video by Mental Outlaw. Well, he just goes through the options. It's a YouTube channel, and for example, one of the things he sets he turns off is this support for, I think it's level 5 paging or something, which is only useful if you have like petabytes of RAM. So it's like all
Yeah.
future proofing, and the number of GPUs that you can have is like 64 by
Hold on.
default in the config.
I like that you said it's future proofing. I get that, but not on a machine, like not on a single machine. We are not going to hit the petabyte machine.
Oh,
Before
dude,
the
it'll
machine
be
in
on
front
one
of you
stick. It'll be on one
fully-
stick
Yeah.
soldered
Yeah.
to the motherboard.
Yeah,
One
your
One
laptop,
petabyte.
Yeah, your laptop in front of you right now will burst into flames before you can upgrade to a petabyte.
Yeah.
So having that kernel on that machine,
Okay, yeah,
silly.
future proofing probably not the right word. It's just a case of having a
Well,
general.
it's forward
general.
looking, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The keyword is general
Yeah,
kernel
yeah.
where you can deploy on anything, which is what your distro has in the repos.
Right. So
as
so my
preconfigured
kernel will
kernels.
certainly be smaller than the Ubuntu kernel. I'll be able to say that at that
If you
point.
compile it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just saw 1 terabyte NVMe. The Crucial P3 is $45. Why do I care about storage? I'll just upgrade.
Yeah. Well, I'm also running a precompiled kernel because Fedora Arch, and if I can, I just use that. On Gentoo, I just decided to go all mad scientist. I have it installed in multi-boot. I don't use it. I install it. I keep tinkering with it. I did a very mad science thing. I wanted to see whether I can compile everything without Xwork support. So I just, in the use flags, I just said -x, but add Wayland support. And things were willing to compile. Even the well, I had to disable the Qt use flag because for some reason various things in the GTK and Qt stacks and like GTK 3 plus GTK plus 3 they are not willing to compile without the X flag. Maybe that's because before Wayland was a thing, Gentoo use flags, they just considered the X flag to just mean GUI. So maybe
Yeah.
that's yeah. So I did
Is
manage.
there a Wayland flag?
Yeah, there is. So
Yeah.
I did manage to compile everything without X, but with Wayland. If I turned off support for Qt apps completely and didn't have any GTK apps installed other than Waybar and the XG user directories. But as soon as I want to install anything GTK based like Pavio Control or GNOME disks, it complains about it needing the X flag for the GTK stack, which is interesting. But if I compile Sway without the X flag, it just doesn't build X Wayland, so I have no X Wayland support at all. So I can't run, for example, a game which just says it couldn't open the X display. But I'm not daily driving Gentoo. I just wanted to see if I could have set up a system without Xorg, and apparently it's more possible than, for example, 6 months ago or maybe 10 months ago when I tried last time.
Yeah. Hey, you
Well,
want to get to that article, Bill?
Yeah. I
See,
guess we
this
can
is
touch
why-
this.
Bill, this is why I keep saying we don't need to pre-do anything. This is why we're 50 minutes in, and we haven't touched the one thing that we said we were going to talk
I
about.
have this fear of not at least saying, "Hey, why don't we have these things
And that's cool. That's
to talk
that's
about?"
perfectly
Because we
fine.
did that
Yeah.
on Three Fat Truckers, and we
Yeah.
ended up with, well, the show was shit, but we, and we got hammered for it too. So we learned our lessons. So now it's like, let's figure out something to talk about, even if we don't talk about it.
Yeah, no.
So, I
I
don't
feel
know.
like at least on this show, man, we'll end up on some kind of weird tangent.
The
and-
whole point of the show was about putting together the right personalities that could bounce off of each other. And I think I can't help but take full credit for that. I think, yeah, it's so great being
I'll
me.
give it to you. I give it to you.
But no, the article that Leo is referring to is from Ars Technica, uh, dated the 3rd, written by Andrew Cunningham. It says Google will retire Chrome's HTTPS padlock icon because no one knows what it means. And then it's underscored with Google says only 11% of users understand the precise meaning of the lock
But
icon. Apparently,
also
11% is not enough.
But that no. Like so, of those 11%, those 11% said, "Oh yeah, that means that I'm on HTTPS and not HTTP," and they might even be able to explain that it's an encrypted connection. But of those 11%, how many of those know how to actually verify the certificate's authenticity, which is the entire point of that stupid padlock? And when we changed the padlock to not indicate
Right.
who owned the certificate, it became meaningless. They should have done this like what, 8 years ago? Because the padlock doesn't mean what it used to mean. Now it's just there saying HTTPS, yes. That is it. That's
I
it.
mean, you can click on it and you can see like the
Yeah.
very basic information about the certificate.
Right, but like
but every
wi-
once in a while you come across a unsecure website with just HTTP. It makes sense because it at least does it even show it in red, I think, or
it doesn't
cross
show
through?
a padlock there because
It shows a
it
cross
would
Yeah.
through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
But here's the thing, right? Like so with the advent of Let's Encrypt, spoof sites could get the green padlock. That's what I mean. And there's no one, well okay, okay. There is someone. But very few people that know that the padlock means encryption actually knew how to verify that G00gle.com didn't how to verify that wasn't just some spoofed let's encrypt something or another. Very few of that 11%, I would say.
I think
no
though
way.
when I don't see that padlock though, because I don't always go.
We all ignore it.
I'm used to seeing it, but when I don't see it, it does change my the way I do things on that site. It changes the way I think about what I'm doing. I'm not going to enter like payment information. I'm not going to give them jack about me if it's not showing up on that line. So it's like it changes my behavior somewhat to see that. So now that it's not going to be there, am I going to go through the trouble of going through whatever arcane process they put in place to check it in the settings or whatever? Or is there going to be a way I can right click on the middle of the page and then look at some sort of properties and see that's not real clear?
I just have HTTPS on, turn on HTTPS always. So whenever I end up on an HTTP site, it will just say, "Hey, do you really want to proceed?" And if I really want to I just proceed to the site.
And that's
Yeah.
a
But at
Firefox
least-
thing.
Yeah, I think doesn't Chromium also have it? I know
I-
that Brave, for example.
I don't know.
does.
I maybe Brave, but I think you might have to get an extension in Chrome to do that.
Yes, but because Let's Encrypt, these cases are happening less and less often.
Are they?
Maybe once a week I end up on an HTTP site.
Oh. Yeah, well, and most browsers warn you about that now. They're like, hey, this site is unsecure.
Is
Like,
it- is
well,
it,
we know.
by
Libre Wolf
default,
just
yeah.
flat out refuses.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they have the same HTTPS,
Yeah.
always on
Man,
HTTPS
no,
by
see,
default.
we should still maintain both protocols, man. HTTP sites should be meant for informational only.
Yeah.
That's it. Like think Wikipedia, right? You go there, you're not going to put in You're not normally going to Wikipedia to just punch in your login information and do something on the website, right? Change an article or anything like that. You're usually going to read about some fact, right? That's a perfect use case for HTTP. Not everything needs to be encrypted. because
yeah,
like, oh, well, I want HTTPS so that my ISP can't. They know that you're going. They know where you're going, regardless of whether or not your information is encrypted.
my counter
Please.
argument is that nowadays with today's computing power, the overhead of adding encryption is so
Oh, sure. Yeah, I
little,
got
so
you.
Like,
that
why not?
because
Why
you
wouldn't you take that
yeah
extra
you,
step? You know.
yeah, you might as well just add HTTPS to everything, and that's where Let's Encrypt comes into
Sure.
the picture.
Right,
But
and I get
you know
that.
what we really need? We need to have a super verification and have a blue check mark next to the padlock when if it's
Right.
For
for when if
$6 a
it's
month, you can get a blue check mark.
Yeah.
yeah
But
for when
Norbert,
if
that
it's not Let's Encrypt, but one of the other ones like Google's own or Facebook's own verification
Yep. But
agency.
Norbert, what you said that why shouldn't everything just be HTTPS? That's the entire reason they're getting rid of the padlock. That's it. That's the reason. So, yeah, you're on Google's side, and I get it. I totally get it. They're gonna replace it with this little toggly looking button or whatever. Firefox has one that already looks like that, so that might be a little confusing if you're going back and
Well,
forth.
my
But
Firefox shows a padlock right now.
oh yeah, no, to the right of that, I see
Yeah,
that
the
little
toggle one.
toggle. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And I always have autoplay off on every website. Like I go in and turn that off because that is annoying.
I can't
Yeah,
Yeah,
stand
that's
that.
that
Yeah,
shows
yeah.
the general permissions of the website, which is neat.
Right, and that's so when you click on what is now the padlock button, but will no longer be the padlock button in the future, it's going to show you the same stuff, and just as many people are going to go in and verify what kind of certificate it is and who actually minted the certificate, and DigiCert or whoever, and then verify the authenticity. Like, yeah, 6 people, me being one of them, right? Like, that's what's going to happen. People that keep up with it will know what that thing means. But
So
other
I'm
than that,
looking. I'm looking on. I've got Firefox open over here and Chromium over here, and
ugh.
well, it's what's running Video Ninja. It just works better. It's the only thing I use it for. I promise. But you can click on that padlock on Video Ninja, and it gives you. You click on connection is secure, and then there's certificate is valid at the bottom, and you can literally look at the certificate. Issued to Video.Ninja organization.
Right, but those are 3 clicks that people don't do. Even
Yeah.
people that understand what the padlock is, that's 3 clicks that they don't do. Why? Why put that information front and center when nobody cares about it?
Um.
It's just clutter in the UI.
Okay, so I mean, is it a huge amount of technical debt to keep that there for the people that do care about it? I mean, are they going to gain anything by removing that? Honestly,
Are they going to lose anything by removing it?
I think a lot of people will probably feel that way.
At max, 11% of Chrome's user base. But again,
Where do
as
they
I
get that
mentioned,
number from? Honestly,
hey man.
11%. Come on.
Okay.
Are they
When
removing it?
you know where that
completely?
number comes from is go out in the world and then ask. I guarantee
Is
it's
that
going
what
to be
they
less
did?
than it's going to be a less than 11%, I'll tell you that.
Did they go down to the French Quarter during Mardi Gras and gather up 100 people, and then 11 of them said,
0%.
"Come on."
Those guys are those guys are asleep.
So I mean, or are they literally counting the number of people that are clicking on that? Do they have a way of doing that? Of course they
Yeah.
do.
Does
Well, see,
Chromium
but-
have this same toggle icon as Firefox for permissions, or does it not?
Yes,
Yeah,
it
so-
does. So you click on
Okay.
the padlock, and it's all in one. Instead of having
Okay.
separate buttons like Firefox does, it's
So
all.
Yeah.
why not just move the information about the encryption under the same menu as the permissions?
Maybe they
Okay,
are,
well-
and we're just making a big deal out of nothing.
I think you might not be wrong, Bill. So perceptions of the padlock icon in the browser UI. So
Okay.
they actually have a study.
So
And looks like they had 1800. Yeah, so 1800 people. 11% of them knew.
Okay, so where'd you get to 1,800 people? And
Well,
you know,
okay, we don't have time to go into the actual
no,
study itself, but it's here. Like the study is actually here, and you can actually take a look at it.
yeah,
But,
we'll link to this article in the show notes.
Yeah.
It is interesting. Um, we'll see how it goes. I mean, honestly, I don't use Chrome for a lot anymore.
Well, but here's the thing, though. Like they're getting Chrome is getting rid of it, which means that Chromium will get rid of it. Which means that if you're using Vivaldi or Brave or every other Chromium clone, which is just Chromium, then they're gonna have to put it back in if they want to keep it.
Which I'm sure
So-
they gladly will.
Well,
I think Vivaldi might.
I think Brave might. Yeah,
But Brave,
they
yeah.
would, they would probably be in that. But
Yeah, I can say
no,
Brave is doing
Vivaldi
that.
is the same
Yeah.
way, man. Why would Vivaldi? There are already stuff in their UI full of absolutely everything else. That padlock's just clutter. So if out of Brave and Vivaldi, Brave would put it. Vivaldi might put it.
I think Vivaldi knows that they've got some technical users.
Yeah, but Chrome
And-
knows they have technical users, and they're getting rid of it.
Yeah, but they got a lot of non-technical. They got. I imagine Chrome's got more non-technical users than anybody else
Yeah.
outside of maybe
I'll
Edge.
give you that.
You know, just because you get it shoved down your throat every time you go do anything Google, you know, oh, why not? Why not install Chrome? You know,
God, yeah, I hate that.
so. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on this, or
Oh,
or
trust me,
we'll
I
notice.
will.
We'll notice if it's gone. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
well, I have an entire thing. I pay a lot of attention to the browsers. I mean, they're an operating system in your operating system.
Yeah.
So they're just as interesting to me as Linux. So yeah, I'll definitely keep an eye on it, and I'll definitely continue enjoying my padlock on Firefox.
Yeah.
I
use Firefox for
dedicated, I have a
everything.
dedicated workspace for Firefox, and sometimes I even have it full screened, but with the UI set to not auto hide, so it's just like having a taskbar for an operating system or a panel for an operating system. It kind of feels like a remote desktop, but just
Yeah.
your browser.
So here's a question for you guys. Do you run into anything anymore that just works better on a Chromium-based browser than it does on Firefox?
No.
I don't
Is
know,
that
because-
a thing anymore at all?
I'm here in Video Ninja on Firefox now. So when you turned off
Same.
that Pro thing, everything is
I
fantastic.
turned on the Pro thing, and that's why
Right.
everything works great now.
Oh, okay. See, okay. So whatever
So
you
Pro
fixed,
Audio takes out all of the filters and the you've got limitations on bandwidth and all that kind of crap.
Got
and
it.
turns off the auto leveling or the auto
Yeah, that was what
gain.
was killing me the other day.
The auto
Or-
gain
yeah.
it is irritating, but it shuts that off and
Fantastic.
just lets it run wide open. And
Yeah, so making that change, not having the browser try
Yeah.
to be smart, just made things way better.
right.
So yeah.
Well, good.
Well, I wouldn't know if anything was better on Chromium, because I just don't have a Chromium-based browser installed anymore.
Good man. Good man.
I just have.
Well, I mean
Firefox
that says everything you need to know. You haven't needed
Yeah.
to. You're able to do it all on Firefox, and
Yeah, at one point, Google Drive was behaving weird, or sometimes downloads wouldn't work on Firefox, but sometimes they would, and now they work. And at this point, I'm not even using it. I moved to
Yeah.
Nextcloud, so I don't know.
So what we're saying is we're down to just one argument anymore with people not liking Firefox. That lady gets paid too much. Okay, great. Now, but Firefox is fine. It's great. It's good. I love it. It's amazing.
I also appreciate the lower RAM usage, because my laptop has 8 gigabytes of soldered RAM. And
Yeah.
that's weird. When I bought it, I didn't know about that, because my previous laptop, which was also a Lenovo, had a swappable RAM. It had
Yeah.
2 slots. This one, as I learned after I bought it, does not. So until I get a new laptop, I very much appreciate both Firefox RAM usage and my additional 8 gigabytes of swap space.
well, we better get out of here then. Right into the show. Show at linuxotc.org. We got
I
a proper.
need to hear why you hate Firefox, because seriously, all I can see is one. That's it.
Yeah, right into the show. Tell us what kind of browser you're using and why, so that we can call you out in public and shame you. But yeah, show at linuxotc.org or comment directly on the website. There's links to our socials. I want to say we're everywhere. We're not everywhere. We're on Twitter,
Mastodon,
Mastodon, and oh
Instagram.
yeah. So
Discord.
if you're relying on Twitter, which I don't think anybody is, but if you're relying on Twitter
Rely.
to let you know when the episodes release, that's going to stop working in
Bill,
the very
just
near
give me
future.
the keys. I will post it. It's not that serious.
Post what? The show?
The show.
Anybody can do that.
Well, no, I know.
Do
But
you want me to make like a spreadsheet for all of the passwords and everything?
I don't know
and
what a
put that
red
on the
sheet is, but
spreadsheet.
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 Spread.
Yeah.
That's a terrible way to do it, but yeah, sure.
Or whatever. I can do whatever. Well, what I mean is there because
what you
of because of the API charge to access Twitter from third-party applications, Jetpack is dropping the support for doing the automatic Twitter posts every time you put a post on your website. So we're not going to have that functionality automatically anymore.
And a person has to do it, and it takes 8 seconds, and the automation.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I set these episodes to release. Like if I do the editing for this today, I'll set it to release at midnight Sunday night. That way it's sitting in everybody's catchers
Oh yeah, but
on Monday morning.
At least I don't know where our audience is, but if the majority of our audience is U.S. based, then them getting a tweet at midnight not going to be effective.
Well, it'd be on their phone when they get up in the morning.
Exactly. Well,
The
in
point
their
I'm trying to make,
podcatcher. Yeah.
the point I'm trying to make is go to Mastodon because I could care less about Twitter. And if I could get just a few more of the platforms that I'm involved with to stop using Twitter, I would remove it from my phone completely because I'm no longer a fan of it.
Just put it in a browser tab. Put it in a browser tab.
Yeah, I mean, if I could just get the last of these people to go over to Mastodon. Mastodon's better anyway, folks. For not
Hey,
just
we're getting quote toots soon, so that's cool.
yeah. I mean, it's a technically better platform too, So I don't know. That's my opinion.
Ask the people that run those servers if it's technically better. Or
Well,
I just had to upgrade to a petabyte of storage.
guess you didn't see that one coming.
Yeah. Whoops.
Yep. All right. So yeah, we'll be back in a fortnight. That's 2 weeks for the Americans. Until that time, I've been Bill.
I've been Norbert, and I just managed to find my Video Ninja tab, and I also had a little panic thing, so I couldn't unmute myself quickly enough, but I am Norbert.
I'm that Firefox dude.
That didn't take long at all.
Yeah. Email me.
Yeah, explaining it took way longer than the actual thing.
You did good, Norbert. We'll see you, folks.